Where were Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Did you see them? I didn't see them.
Where was Tic Tac?
Good question. No, I mean, really, I have no idea.
I mean, I don't remember being asked to be in their movie, just saying.
Maybe they were on their way, but they went subatomic.
Maybe they were there, but they were pretty tiny, and there were definitely some ants in Wakanda, so...
Maybe they're in the same place as Hawkeye?
Gamora, Thor, Spider-Man.
I was really looking forward to meeting the Wasp.
Yeah, no, not there. Weird.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. What a coincidence that Marvel drops that teaser for the Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer that's coming tomorrow, right as I'm making my top 10 WTF video for Infinity War. So obviously, careful for spoilers. If you have not seen Infinity War yet, we'll be talking about very specific plot details, and if you are brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. Obviously, there will be an Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer tomorrow. But starting with number 10, let's just start with that teaser at the beginning of the trailer. Where were Ant-Man and the Wasp? Where was Hawkeye? Maybe they were in the same place that Hawkeye was. I love the way that they built that into the actual teaser for Ant-Man and the Wasp. They're going to use that for marketing for the movie. So we actually know where that movie picks up now. They released a couple more details that give us an idea for kind of what's going on. But literally, they give them a very brief shout out. There's an Ant-Man and a Spider-Man now. Banner's just reacting to all the new heroes that have been around since he's been gone. Remember, he left the Earth at the end of Avengers Age of Ultron, so everything that happened since then, he had to catch up on. Both of those characters were bigger question marks for different reasons. So Hawkeye was the big question mark because he was a Phase 1 classic Avenger, and it's like, how are you going to leave out one of the classic Avengers out of this first part of Infinity War? But the reason why Ant-Man and the Wasp was such a big question mark is because their movie is coming out after Infinity War, but we don't know where it picks up in the timeline, because at no point during that trailer do they reference what's going on during Infinity War. We've learned since then that Ant-Man and the Wasp picks up before Infinity War starts in the timeline. So when we see him in the trailer getting his little house arrest bracelet and he's talking about, okay, Civil War happened, I got arrested, and the Wasp is sort of making fun of him. Yeah, you wouldn't have gotten caught if I was there with you helping out. This is all before Thanos' ship touches down in New York City. So a lot of us have been theorizing that if they go into the quantum realm during their movie and time moves differently, that when they come out at the end of the movie, it will be post-finger snap. The quantum realm will somehow protect them from the effects of the reality-changing finger snap. So I'll talk more about that during my Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer video tomorrow morning. But the way they explain Hawkeye not being around is that he was also on house arrest because their families couldn't take it. Like, he didn't want to be away from his family, so he cut a deal and he's on house arrest. He'll be back in Avengers 4. I'll talk more about him becoming the Ronin version of the character and if his family may have died because of the finger snap when I do a new Avengers 4 video. Number 9, the timeline error between Spider-Man Homecoming and Infinity War. So we finally validated what's going on with that 8 years later at the beginning of Homecoming. The Battle of New York, per Tony Stark during Infinity War, was 6 years ago. The Russos and Kevin Feige both confirmed that the Homecoming 8 years later is an error in date. Now, no idea why they let that roll on a $200 million+ movie. Like, why would they send that out? Maybe someone just didn't catch it in time or they weren't thinking about it, because changing a date like that is relatively easy. Any 13-year-old kid that has a basic understanding of Adobe After Effects could change that pretty quickly. But let it be known that it's 6 years later, not 8 years later, so maybe sometime they'll change that, but if you have the Blu-ray, it still says 8 years later. So number 8, the Hulk cannot Hulk out. Why can he not Hulk out? There are a lot of people that think that it's because he's afraid of Thanos, but remember, when he's back on Earth, he comes back from the Sanctum and they're looking at the ship at Ebony Maw and Black Dwarf on the street there. Tony Stark says to Banner, "Do you want a piece of this?" And he's like, "No, but when do I get whatever I want?" So he tries to change into the Hulk and it won't work. It's like performance issues. What's going on? You're embarrassing me in front of the wizard. The only time that the Hulk ever actually speaks to him is when he's in the park briefly, and then at the end of the movie when he's still inside the Hulkbuster and you can hear the voice of the Hulk scream, "No," as he's trying to change. So here's the thing about that. I would believe that he's afraid of Thanos because he was beaten if he were fighting Thanos in this moment, but Thanos is nowhere to be found. This is Squidward and Cull Obsidian here. The Hulk did not fight them. He has no reason to be afraid of these two people. Like at the end of the movie when he's fighting Cole Obsidian and he's kind of talking to the Hulk like, what's going on, you big green asshole? And Hulk screams no and doesn't want to come back out. And he says, fine, I'll do it myself. If they'd given those lines of dialogue to him when Thanos was running that Avengers gauntlet, then it would have made more sense. But there's no reason for Hulk to be afraid when Banner sees that Thor comes with Stormbreaker, lands the field, and starts just wiping out all the enemies. Like he has that line of dialogue where he says, you all are so screwed now because Thor has brought his greatest weapon to bear. So we'll find out more about that during Avengers 4, because Banner says, we have a lot to figure out, pal. So implying that the problem with the Hulk is a little more complicated than him just being afraid. Number 7, another big question that I got on a couple of the videos that I've been posting this past weekend. How did Thanos know who Tony Stark was? Tony was surprised. You know who I am? Oh yes, you're not the only one that's cursed with knowledge. The easiest way to explain that is that it was after the Battle of New York, Thanos found out that his attack had failed and someone just conveyed that information. The Avengers stopped the attack. So that's probably when he found out who Tony Stark was. But number 6, what's up with that second Infinity Gauntlet at the Dwarven Space Forge? Or is that just a mold? Either way, they can make another gauntlet if they need to, which makes you think about the melted one that Thanos has. So right now, the gauntlet has been melted, the gems still look like they work just fine. The way that Eitri explains the actual gauntlet itself is that Thanos asked him to make a device that would allow him to wield the power of all the stones together. So just like Stormbreaker, just like Mjolnir have special enchantments on them, they have magical properties that allow them to either wield the power of the Bifrost, or like Thor can send his hammer all over the universe and it will come to him whenever he calls it. Which also is Stormbreaker too. If you guys didn't notice that, he throws Stormbreaker and it comes right back to him. So it also works a little bit like Mjolnir. But the actual gauntlet itself isn't just a simple gauntlet that someone would wear into a battle. It also has special magical enchantments that allow it to wield the power of all the Infinity Stones together. So the idea then is that the Avengers won't be able to use Thanos' version of the gauntlet because it's melted, but they can reuse the Infinity Stones by forming a new gauntlet. So we'll talk more about that when I do an Avengers 4 video because it's kind of speculation, but I think what we're meant to take away from the melty gauntlet is that the Avengers won't be able to steal that from him and just use it outright. They'll have to somehow either fix the gauntlet or make a new one at this Dwarven Space Forge. Number 5, Loki really did die after the first Thor movie. Thanos says no resurrections this time. That's what he was referring to. Loki died when he fell through that black hole. Thanos resurrected him, which is why Loki looks so hard up when he comes to Earth in the first Avengers film. Like he hasn't slept in forever. It's because he was dead and resurrected. So I think a big part of believing when characters are dead are the method of their death. Like everybody believes that these ashed people will come back, even though half of all life in the universe was erased. We're like, yeah, they'll come back somehow. The Avengers are going to fix this in Avengers 4. Number 4, this is a big one. Everybody hates Star-Lord now. Why couldn't Star-Lord wait 5 more seconds before wailing on Thanos' face? Literally, they said, like, they had the gauntlet halfway off of his hand. 5 more seconds, they would have been good. Star-Lord could have thrown himself at Thanos all he wanted and it would have been fine. This, I think, gets into the idea of the future timeline that Doctor Strange foresaw. Like, there was a bit of a twist at the end before Doctor Strange disappeared, turning to ash. He says, it was the only way. So, number 3, what was Doctor Strange's secret plan that he says was the only way as he wound up dying, Iron Man begrudgingly accepting what he was talking about? So there are a couple things going on in this moment here. Iron Man is forced to watch Spider-Man melt away. Mr. Stark, I don't want to go. Like they have that Doctor Who moment. It's very effective. People all around me in the theater were crying. But earlier in the movie, when they're talking about the plan, and Doctor Strange says that there was only one way they won, one out of many millions of possibilities way that they could win the coming conflict. He just makes a very vague statement about what's to come, so you're left to wonder what the conversation was after that happened. You make some assumptions because you're like, well, they have this battle on Titan, maybe this is what he was talking about. But if that were the case, then Doctor Strange would have been more worried when he gave the Time Stone to Thanos in exchange for Iron Man's life. So what I think they're implying here is that there was a deeper plan at play. They had to let things play out this way. So he probably knew about how all this was going to play out, which is why he said this was the only way. And Iron Man probably knew that, even though he was still extremely upset about how this was going to go down. Like, just keep in mind that this was actually part of Doctor Strange's plan, so we'll learn about that during Avengers 4. Like, that will be the proof in the pudding when Iron Man shows up during Avengers 4 and says, okay, my buddy, the wizard here, said that this was the only way we could win, is if Thanos did this, and then he'll reveal what the rest of the plan is. But we right now are left at the cliffhanger, so we're just assuming that everything failed. But I think, the big secret is that the plan didn't fail. The plan is still in motion. But number 2, another big WTF, why did Scarlet Witch bench herself the whole time? That joke from Okoye was perfect too. Why was she up there the whole time? Because look at how powerful she is. They have those giant earth movers that come underneath the shield. They're huge. They dwarf all these little people on the ground. Scarlet Witch picks them up relatively easily and just throws them away. And she's also one of the only people in the universe that we know that has the power to destroy one of, or more than one of, the Infinity Stones. If she can do it to the Mind Gem, she can probably do it to the other gems too. You also see Thanos running through the Avengers on his way to Vision, like he just throws them aside like they're no big deal. But Scarlet Witch is a big surprise for him. He actually has to struggle against her with the power of 5 gems at his command. So if she can hold him at bay when he has a nearly completed Infinity Gauntlet, she could have been useful much earlier in the film. But again, like I said during my review video a couple days ago, they were mostly paying off emotional arcs. Like, this is all about emotional terrorism and just making you care about these characters and what happened to them. So that's why I think they used her the way that they did. And now that she's turned to ash, she isn't immediately available to help during Avengers 4 until they bring all those people back. But number 1, WTF, why didn't Nick Fury call for Captain Marvel to come help out sooner? There was this certain flow of information, like they say that Tony Stark is missing, so there are a lot of people on Earth that don't know what's happening on Titan because they haven't got word to them yet. Now, Mantis was able to call Nebula, but that's because they were still on the Guardian ship and they were within communications range. So there's a lot of stuff happening on Earth that people only know about because of what Banner told them. So the flow of information hasn't been so great. Nick Fury only knows something is up, as far as we know, because he just sees everything going crazy in New York City. But I think what we'll find in the Captain Marvel movie is the reason why she wasn't called earlier during these other Avengers conflicts is because she was probably dealing with something even bigger out in the Kree galaxy. And remember, this is 20 plus years after the events of the Captain Marvel movie, so if Brie Larson does not age between those 2 movies, there's something that happens to her to keep her from aging. Either way, I think it has something to do with the turmoil going on in the Kree-Skrull War. So there's like this giant intergalactic war that's going on 20 plus years ago. She's probably dealing with that, which is why she doesn't come to help out during Age of Ultron or during the original Avengers movie. But just let me know in the comments, what were your biggest WTF moments from the film? Like either, big gut-wrenching moments or moments that you felt like didn't make any sense. Either way, there's going to be an Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer tomorrow. There's a new round of that Infinity Gauntlet giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber, leave a comment on the video. I'll name a winner when I post that trailer video. But I'll also do a video for the missing characters like Korg and Valkyrie, like people that we just did not see in the movie, but they left alive at the end of Thor Ragnarok. Like, where did some of these people go? Did they escape? What's going on? So while you wait for everything, click here for my giant Easter egg video. It's actually a pretty long video. And click here for my full review of the movie. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.